With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
It's Irish. It is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you to the legendary Scott Shannon for that introduction, and thanks to all of you for tuning in to yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey. As we reach the midpoint of the month of September, 2020 can't end quick enough. I am not in the King Spring studio today. Long story, these last 2 weeks, I have to be honest with you, have been the two toughest mentally and physically trying weeks that I can remember. I sat the other night and I tried to remember a 2-week span of my life in the last 20 years that have been this mentally grueling and physically tolling on me, and I can't think of it. So I am not in the King Spring studio today. I'm at a kitchen table at 5 o'clock in the morning because this is probably the only time I am going to get any sort of rest or peace and quiet for the rest of the day. But as a matter of fact, the neighbors behind me have already started with a crew on their roof, hammering and removing their roof at 5 o'clock in the morning. So you never know around here. I'm not going to get into too much details as to what's been going on here the last couple of weeks, but I could tell you it's been emotionally, physically, and mentally the toughest 2 weeks that I can remember. Yeah, I have to go back 20, 30 years for the last time I felt this emotionally and physically drained. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to get into it here on the show. I don't want to be a downer. Eventually we'll talk about all that, but I want to get into the show. And I just want to apologize ahead of time if you hear an echo. There's really nothing I can do. I'm normally in a not soundproof, but a sound-controlled environment in the King Spring studio or in an alternate location where I do my radio recording, but I really don't have any options this week. It was either this or no show, so I wanted to bring a show this week. So now you know how I feel about these gender reveal parties, and we've talked about this. I think somebody won the Mutant of the Week, I think in our first season, for setting a wildfire in Arizona with one of these gender reveals. Well, it's happened again, this time in Florida, where an elaborate plan to reveal a baby's gender went disastrously wrong when a smoke-generating pyrotechnic device ignited a wildfire that consumed thousands of acres east of Los Angeles last weekend. Can you believe this? The device ignited a 4-foot-tall grass section at El Dorado Park, and efforts to douse the flames with water bottles proved fruitless. So they went with their Poland Spring 16-ounce bottles and thought they were going to put out a brush fire, which turned into a wildfire. The family then called 911 to report the fire and shared photos with the investigators. By Monday, the fire had burned more than 7,300 acres and only was 7% contained. No injuries or structural damage were immediately reported. Criminal charges are being considered, but would not be filed until the fire is fully extinguished. I can't speak for their behalf, Captain Malloy said of the Cal Fire Company, but personally I can only imagine how terrible they have to feel for a lot of reasons. I don't think these people really feel terrible. All it is about showing off and putting on a big fucking show on Facebook or Instagram. I don't think these people really give a shit. It's all about putting on a big show and trying to outdo the next guy. Now, these celebrations started out as intimate events, but the rise of social media has turned some of these gender reveal parties into spectacles. As long as we have something like social media where a gender reveal party is like so visible, it's all about the visual cues and this performance aspect. We're going to continue seeing this as a competitive spectacle, and you're going to have shit like this happening all over. Jenna Kavanoudis has been credited with creating the gender reveal party by hosting one for her firstborn in 2008 and sharing it on her blog. Imagine being the fucking idiot that invented the gender reveal party. I would never come out of my house again. So you think that's bad? You start a brush fire with a gender reveal situation. How about blowing your house up with a fly swatter. A guy in France blew up part of his home while chasing after a fly with an electric swatter. He's 82. He became irritated by the buzzing of a fly while he was eating his dinner Friday evening and began swinging the electric fly swatter. Unbeknownst to him, a gas canister was leaking in his kitchen at the same time. A spark from the swatter ignited the gas, damaging the home's kitchen and the roof. The man managed to escape the house with minor burns on his hand. The fate of the fly is unknown. The man was checked out at the hospital and released. His house is currently uninhabitable, and is being repaired by his family. So, you burn a forest down with a gender reveal. You blow your house up with a fly swatter. Now, what's worse than a fly in the house? How about a snake in your toilet? Yep, that's right. Now, I've been paranoid about something in the toilet since I was on the potty when I was a kid. I remember when my mother used to make me sit on the potty. I have a very vivid memory. I can go back very early in life. I used to say, the cat's going to get me, the cat. But I wasn't really thinking it was a cat. Maybe as a kid, that's all but I always feared something coming out of the toilet or the potty since I was a kid. And my biggest fear has always been the snake. Now, a man in Thailand almost was dismembered, where it was his worst nightmare come true after a snake sunk its fangs into his penis while he was on the toilet. That's right. He said he looked down and saw there was a snake hanging in the toilet. His name is Sirapop. His near serpent circumcision occurred Tuesday, approximately 12 miles north of Bangkok, after the reptile allegedly infiltrated his plumbing. Sirapop recalls watching smartphone videos on the toilet when all of a sudden he felt a searing pain in his penis. The university student looked down to discover a nightmarish sight, a 4-foot python with its jaws clamped around the tip of his penis. He probably thought it was like a dangling, like prey. At that point, the horrified boy stood up with the snake still attached to his penis and slammed the door on the reptile, causing it to release its grip. Sirapop then screamed in terror and rushed out of the now blood-spattered bathroom with his pants around his ankles, where the serpent slinked back into the toilet bowl. The snake actually went back into the toilet, so he's never going on that again. Noticing her son's distress, the teenager's mother attempted to calm him down before emergency services rushed the poor soul to the hospital to have his mangled member repaired. Thankfully, doctors were able to stitch up his wound and sterilize it using an antibiotic wash. He said the doctor said his penis can be used as normal very soon. As for the snake, handlers were able to find the manhood-munching reptile using special equipment and release it safely back into the wild. How do you ever go on the toilet ever again after that? I would never. I would be squatting it. Well, you can't say squat in the woods. There's a good chance you'll get. I don't know where I'd be taking a shit after this. This isn't the first time someone has been bitten by a snake while on the toilet. In January, a Thai woman had to be hospitalized after a snake sunk its fangs into her thigh when she was doing her business. So if you go to Thailand, the theme here is don't sit on the toilet. How do these big snakes get into the plumbing system? That's what I want to know. So, speaking of penis and meat, how about this Ohio woman who bought a package of what she thought was smoked turkey tails at a supermarket, but she thought she got the shaft when she noticed a decidedly penis-shaped piece of meat in her beans. I'm calling Save-A-Lot right now. This ain't right, Akron resident Lamia Singfield said on a Facebook Live post. I know what this is. It's a penis. It's got the folds, she told her Facebook fans. Upon further investigation, there is a hole at the tip. When she checked her store receipt, it indicated that she bought turkey tails, but a photo of the label said it was smoked pork tails. But still fearing that she was cooking up a male penis, the worried woman called 911 about the mystery meat. I called police because I examined it, and it is what it is, she said in her Facebook Live video. The police arrived, and they examined it, and it is, in fact, a penis, she said. They are calling the medical examiner right now and the coroner because somebody is missing their stuff. Save-A-Lot has got some explaining to do, she said. Fortunately, an investigator from the Summit County Medical Examiner's Office said the meat was indeed pork and not a errant penis, adding that the piece of meat contained a bone, suggesting it was likely a pigtail. Oh, boy. In a statement, Save-A-Lot said that it had not been contacted by the customer. This woman made this whole shit up. And at Save-A-Lot, we have a long-held commitment to the highest standards in quality control and work in partnership with our vendors to ensure those standards are upheld. You imagine calling up the cops because you think the piece of meat you bought is shaped like a penis? Why would you call the police? I don't understand these people. So the woman got... Now, speaking of bones or boneless, you hear about this Nebraska man? He had city council members laughing and clucking during Monday night's meeting, even though he had a bone to pick with them. Anders Christensen made a passionate argument to Lincoln City Council members during the public comments section of the meeting, urging them to consider renaming boneless chicken wings. The tongue-in-cheek presentation by Christensen, the son of City Council member Roy Christensen, was delivered solemnly as he suggested that Lincoln has the opportunity to be a social leader in this country. We have been casually ignoring a problem that has gotten so out of control that our children are throwing around names and words without even understanding their meaning, treating things as though they're normal. I'm talking about boneless chicken wings. I propose that we as a city remove the name boneless wings from our menus and from our hearts. Christensen claimed that boneless chicken wings do not come from the wing of a chicken, arguing that they are just chicken tenders, which are already boneless. I don't go to order boneless tacos. I don't go and order boneless club sandwiches. We need to raise our children better. Our children are being raised afraid of having bones attached to their meat. That's where meat comes from. It grows on bones. We need to teach them that the wing of a chicken is from a chicken and it's delicious. Christensen also suggested several substitute names for the food, including buffalo-style chicken tenders, wet tenders, saucy nugs, or trash. He says that Lincoln could take the steps and show the country where we stand and that we understand that we've been living a lie for too long. In a statement, Buffalo Wild Wings officials said they took exception to Christensen's characterization of boneless chicken wings. Boneless wings are not nuggets, the company tweeted, adding tongue-in-cheek that Christensen was wanted for wing slander. So this guy goes to a city council meeting. Probably a lot of serious issues going on, especially with the pandemic and all kinds. And this guy makes an issue out of boneless chicken wings, buffalo wings. Now, have you ever had an argument at home over maybe the last piece of cake or the leftovers, and you get home and they're gone? You're not going to kill somebody for that. Well, a South Florida man killed his mother because he lost it after arguing with her about orange juice, an air conditioner remote, and the use of her car to search for a job. The man told police they had an argument after he asked to borrow her car to look for a job, and she said no, since it was Labor Day and everything would be closed. He then grabbed a jar of orange juice out of the refrigerator. He said she took it from him and threw it out. According to the arrest report, the argument escalated to the point where the man pulled a gun out of his pocket and shot his mother. He told police he didn't know how many times he shot her, but that he fired all the bullets, and he normally kept 6 bullets in the gun. Luis Pages, he's 29, he's charged with 1 count of second-degree murder following the death of Miriam Gonzalez, 59, in their North Miami Beach home. He called 911 after the shooting, telling the dispatcher that he killed his mother, and he said, "Come take me to jail." He told detectives that after the argument, his mother held up a pink knife and threatened him. That's when he pulled out the gun and shot her multiple times. He told investigators he tried to shoot himself but realized he was out of bullets. He then called 911 instead. So can't make these stories up. You really. So what do we have today? We have a gender reveal wildfire, a guy who blew up his house with a fly swatter, a snake biting a penis in a toilet, a piece of meat shaped like a penis, renaming boneless wings, and an orange juice killer. If that doesn't segue to our favorite segment, what the hell will?
A bunch of malarkey.
Mutant of the week.
Now here's Charlie.
So where did we leave off right before Labor Day? We had Mayhem for mayor, the woman who faked her own kidnapping on a Facebook Live, a candidate for mayor to get sympathy votes. She beat the flatulent fighter, the woman who beat up her dad for farting. I don't know, they shared a room or something in Florida. It was a 70% to 30% victory for Mayhem for mayor. So she is our mutant of the week, or has been for the last couple of weeks. And she will wear the crown until one of these two take the crown from her. Now, where do you vote for the mutant of the week? Now, we can't do polls anymore for some reason. It's gone. So you have to vote in the comments, and I appreciate all your patience over the last couple of, I don't know if the polls are ever going to return. They're still available for groups. They're not available for pages anymore. I don't know why. We've had it for years and years and years, and then they take it away. So you go to A Bunch of Malarkey on Facebook, and you vote in the comments. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not thinking straight. I got dogs coughing in the background. This whole podcast is a mess, but we're forging forward because I guess some show is better than no show. Maybe not. You be the judge. So our first mutant of the week nominee comes from Oklahoma City, where a man in Oklahoma City decided he was going to drive through the Taco Bell drive-thru naked. According to police reports, Christopher Sale, he's 61, was in his vehicle in the drive-thru completely naked. He paid for his order at the restaurant and then reportedly asked the employees for additional tacos. One of the employees was not comfortable with this, and another employee gave him the additional taco. When he asked for more sauce, still not leaving the drive-thru. Sale asked for napkins after receiving the sauce and then eventually left the drive-thru, only to come back and ask for more sauce for his food. When police arrived, they were able to detain Sale. He told them that he was hungry and that all of his clothes were in the washer. He also stated that he didn't know it was against the law to drive naked. So let's call him the Disrobed Driver, the man who drove through a Taco Bell nude and then kept coming back for different things. I think he was just an exhibitionist, because it's one thing you go through, but to keep coming back, give me more sauce, give me another taco. He was trying to show off his penis. So he is our first mutant nominee, the Disrobed Driver out of Oklahoma City. Our second mutant nominee, he's a guy who did something kind of asinine. It's probably not a good idea to leave behind your personal contact information when committing a crime. But a man in Pennsylvania did that, where a bizarre situation unfolded at a pizza place on Wednesday when a man applying for a job at the restaurant decided to rob it instead. This was after he filled out an application with all his personal information on it. Authorities have charged Nicholas Mark, he's 22, with robbery with threat of serious injury, theft, possession of a weapon, simple assault, and possession of drug paraphernalia. He reportedly stole a tip jar from Pizza Doro and used a knife to threaten an employee who gave chase. The suspect reportedly applied for a job at the restaurant before grabbing the jar and apparently left behind his contact information on a form. According to an employee at the pizza place, Mark also left behind a backpack which contained multiple items that had his name on them, along with syringes and other potential drug paraphernalia. Authorities were reportedly able to locate Mark, who was correctly identified by employees in a lineup. Mark was arrested after being unable to post bail. He was booked at the Northampton County Prison. So let's call him the Asinine Applicant. So we have the Asinine Applicant against the Disrobed Driver. Make your voices heard. Go to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey, and cast your vote. I'm sorry about the dog coughing in the background. This whole podcast is a mess, but we forge on because that's the way the last couple of weeks have been for me. So we just play through, folks. That's been the theme of my last 2 weeks. You play through. You're mentally, physically, emotionally broken down. You play through. That's what you do. You just keep playing through. So what if they're hammering a roof at 5 a.m? So what if the dog's coughing? So what if everything's falling around upon you? You just keep going forward with the podcast. Now, I wanted to talk this week about, I don't want to get too political, but we kind of have to now. I'm very disturbed at some of the president's supporters, most of the president's supporters. Now, I don't fault anybody for voting for Trump in 2016. He was an unknown. Well, he wasn't really unknown. He had a long track record of being a con man, but you know, the choice is Hillary versus Trump. You wanted to maybe give a non-politician a chance, a businessman. I get why somebody may have voted for Trump back in 2016. But to still support him now, it's not even about the support. It's about when he says something on tape. This week, that Woodward book came out. Trump is on tape saying stuff. On tape. And if this happened in the past, where he's on video or on tape saying something, and his supporters make an excuse for it, or say it's the reporter making it up, or it's the media, when the person they're defending is saying it on video or on tape. Now, if we had the same standard back in the 70s, Nixon would have never had to leave. He had at least some Republicans stepped up in the Nixon administration and said, this guy, he's got to go. We don't have one dissenting voice in the Republican Party, except for maybe Mitt Romney. Now, but the biggest problem I have right now is this cult-like atmosphere in the country. What about 35-40% of the population? It's terrifying. It's terrifying to me. Now, I liked President Obama. I liked President Clinton. But when they did things wrong, you can check my personal Facebook page. I'll go back. I'll post it on the Bunch of Malarkey. When they did something I disagree with, I called them out on it. I didn't blindly follow these people with everything they did. I mean, it's sick to me to just blindly follow somebody and never think they're wrong. And I want to talk today about, there's a lot of signs that this is a cult. And now people laugh when they say, just because I follow the president, I like the president, doesn't mean I'm in a cult. We're going to talk about the signs that you're in a cult today, and tell me that these signs aren't indicative of what's going on with the president right now. Now, what is a cult? Okay, that's where we need to start. In modern English, a cult is a social group that is defined by its unusual religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, or by its common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal. The sense of this term is controversial, having divergent definitions, both in popular culture and academia. A cult is a group of people joined together by a common ideological system fostered by a charismatic leader, where the expectation is that they can transcend the imperfections and finitude of life. Often they set up a we-they philosophy, us against them, we have the truth and you do not. Literally speaking, a cult is a social group that's defined by its religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, or its common interest in a personality, object, or goal. That doesn't sound too scary, right? Well, that's kind of the point. When taken at face value, the definition of a cult actually sounds kind of nice. People getting together for a common interest, an object, or a goal. But it can get very dicey. Now, what are the signs that you are in a cult, or the signs of a cult? First and foremost, the leader is the ultimate authority. You're not allowed to criticize the leader. Even if the criticism is true, cults begin with a charismatic leader who claims some supreme knowledge. They may call themselves a prophet, a messiah, a messenger, or an enlightened teacher. They can also be a CEO, a military official, a politician, a self-help guru. Cult leaders convince members to forfeit their critical thinking ability in return for a sense of belonging, authority, and purpose. To those members, it doesn't matter what the evidence or logic may suggest, the leader is always right, and their misdeeds are always justified. Sound familiar? Criticism of the leader is forbidden. His or her thoughts, opinions, and belief system are considered the absolute truth. The followers don't just think fondly of their leader. They see their leader's teachings as law and refuse to accept knowledge or information from any other source. Does that sound familiar? Is that scary? Is that not what's going on right now? Number 2, the group suppresses skepticism. If you're only allowed to study your organization through approved sources, you're probably in a cult. Cults view critical thinking as an infectious disease, and every effort is made to suppress it. Doubting members are encouraged to isolate themselves from outside influences and focus solely on the doctrine of the cult. Criticism is forbidden. People who contradict the group are viewed as persecutors and are often given labels like anti or suppressive person. Members are discouraged from consuming any material that is critical of the group. Anyone who questions the group leader is considered a traitor to the group as a whole, or even a danger to its constituents. Doubt or questions may even be punished. Come on. Is that not what's going on? The third sign you may be in a cult, or the third sign of a cult, is that the group delegitimizes former members. Now, come on, this is something that's happening right now. If you can't think of a legitimate reason for leaving your group, you're probably in a cult. Because the cult considers itself the ultimate authority on truth, it can't imagine anybody leaving it with their integrity intact. So it has to perpetrate a false narrative that the former members were deceived, proud, immoral, lazy. If the former members speak out, they are dismissed as bitter, angry, dishonest, or evil. Cults often impose some kind of shunning to shame former members and prevent them from infecting other members with the truth. Every single person that's left the Trump administration has been totally torn down, ridiculed, dragged through the mud. This is happening. This is happening. This is a cult. People just don't realize it. Tell me that these three things so far aren't exactly what's going on. The fourth sign is that the group is paranoid about the outside world. The group insists the end of the world is near, and that's the sign of a cult. The cults position themselves as the sole refuge from an evil outside world. Come on, the blacks are coming, the gays, the illegals, the Muslims. Build a wall. Come on. This evil outside world is intent on their destruction. Cults thrive on conspiracy theories, catastrophic thinking, and persecution complexes. In an effort to draw in more members, cults are often very aggressive in their recruitment efforts, which are usually justified as saving people from the evil world. Those who reject the cult's message are evil or stupid. It's an us versus them mentality. Come on, that's 4 signs now. The group relies on shame cycles. If you need your group in order to feel worthy, loved, or sufficient, you're probably in a cult. Cult leaders trap members in shame cycles by imposing abnormally strict codes of conduct, guilting members for their shortcomings, and then positioning themselves as the unique remedy to the feelings of guilt, which they themselves have created. Cult members are made to believe that they are insufficient or unworthy on their own, and that the only way to become worthy is to confess their shortcomings to the group leader. The leader then becomes the mediator of worthiness and the foundation of the members' self-esteem. Leaders who can make followers feel bad about anything can use shame to manipulate followers into doing anything, even if it's against their own self-interest or better judgment. Number 6. Again, this is scary. The leader is above the law. If you're held to a different moral standard, specifically in regard to sex or money, you're probably in a cult. A prevalent idea among cult leaders is that they are above the law, be it human or divine. This idea allows them to exploit their followers economically and sexually without repercussions. When confronted, they don't confess, but they create justifications for their impropriety. Sexual grooming of members is common. Loyal cult members will perform any amount of mental gymnastics to justify or ignore their leader's behavior. A cult leader, as the being who is in charge of the group, does not answer to any other authorities. Does that sound scarily familiar? The group also, when you're in a cult, the group also uses thought reform methods. If your serious questions are answered with cliches, you're probably in a cult. Indoctrination or brainwashing is the process through which a cult slowly breaks down a person's sense of identity and ability to think rationally. Behaviors like excessive fasting, prayer, hypnosis, scripture reading, chanting, meditation, or drug usage can all be used to increase a person's vulnerability to the leader's suggestions. The group is sometimes elitist. If your group is the solution to all the world's problems, you're probably in a cult. Sound familiar? Going to solve everything. I could do it alone. Cults see themselves as the enlightened, chosen, and elect organization tasked with radically transforming individual lives and the entire world. This creates a greater sense of group unity and responsibility centered on a united purpose. However, this sense of responsibility is often manipulated by cult leaders who coerce members into risky financial behavior, free manual labor, or heightened recruitment efforts in order to further the cause. Another big one, number 9, there is no financial transparency. If you're not allowed to know what the leader or group does with their money, you're probably in a cult. A group that refuses to disclose its finances is a huge red flag. Ethical organizations have nothing to hide. Cult leaders tend to live lavishly while their followers are required to make financial sacrifices. Sound familiar? Members are often encouraged to pay their offerings even if it means putting their families at risk. The group performs secret rites. If there are secret teachings or ceremonies you didn't discover until after you got involved, you're probably in a cult. Cults use secret rituals as rites of passage that solidify a member's loyalty to the group. Initiation into these rites usually only comes after a member has undergone certain tests or made adequate financial contributions. Cult initiations are often confusing, bizarre, or offensive. Now, it's not always obvious when a group is a cult, and by the time you realize you're involved with one, getting away can be difficult. While no group or organization admits to being in a cult, you're probably dealing with one if you are not allowed to ask questions, make your own decisions, or disagree with the leader. Anyone can get pulled into a cult, but not everyone has the courage to leave and rejoin mainstream society. You can escape a cult by planning your getaway carefully and finding ways to recover from spiritual and emotional abuse. If you need to know how to get out of a cult, you can go to www.wikihow.com/leave-a-cult. So if you really want to get out, there are ways out. Now, this is scary to me. There are so many bullet points there that identify with a Trump supporter or with Trump himself, being he's not financially, he doesn't have to disclose his finances, he's above the law. I mean, there's so many things here. It delegitimizes its former members. It's paranoid about the outside world. Come on. Out of those 10, there's probably 7 strong indicators that this whole Trump thing is a cult. There's no other way around it. How can you constantly put a man before your own country? You know deep down he's wrong about certain things. Nobody's right about everything, right? But the common denominator is always Trump. There's how many books have been written now by insiders that were close to him in his administration, but it's always the other guy that was wrong. He's disgruntled, he's angry. It can't always be the other guy. And this is what I've seen in my lifetime. You know, my mom, for instance, isolated so many people in her life. Does she ever sit at her age now in her 70s and say, all these people that I no longer talk to, does she ever realize that she's the common denominator, that it's not everybody else? It's called taking stock in yourself, and it's something that I guess if you're a narcissist, you can't do, like President Trump. Again, I liked President Obama. I voted for him. I voted for President Clinton. But when I did something wrong, I said, this is wrong. When he had the affair with Monica Lewinsky, I didn't think he deserved to be thrown out of office for it, but I thought it was wrong. I never defended him having an affair. You know, you can't always defend supreme. You can't 100% get behind a person and think that they're never wrong. It's a sickness. I'm sorry. And with 6 or 7 weeks to go, folks, I'm getting very nervous because I could tell you what's going to happen. Election night, all the ballots aren't going to be counted. A lot of people are afraid to go vote, and rightfully so. What's going to happen is it's going to appear that Trump's winning because Republicans are more apt to think this whole virus is a hoax, and they're going to go vote, and it's going to look like he's leading even in states that he has no business leading in. And then a few days later, the votes are going to start coming in, and that's when it's going to be called a sham, rigged, and it's going to be contested. It's going to be put through the courts, and we may not see a resolution before the next inauguration day. I think this is going to be a long, dragged-out thing. I think this is going to create civil unrest in the country. Everybody's looking forward to election day like it's going to be over. It's not. If you thought 2000 was bad, where it dragged on until mid-December, you ain't seen nothing yet. I don't think we're going to have a resolution right away because Trump is not going to accept that he lost, and it's going to be dragged through the courts, and we're going to have problems on our hands. There's going to be, you think rioting is going on now? Wait till both sides are out rioting against each other. There's going to be death, destruction. I'm telling you, prepare for it. It's just going to happen. And I'm not blaming it on mail-in because mail-in voting, I don't see a problem with it. Even if there wasn't mail-in voting and there was no pandemic and people went to the polls and voted, he would still say something happened and it was rigged and something happened and drag it through the courts. It's what's going to happen. Prepare for it. Don't think you're going to wake up the next morning and there's going to be a decision and it's going to be a smooth transition of power. Those days are gone. There's no more normal in this country. There's no more. That's over. So don't expect that night to have a victor and wake up in the morning and no matter who wins and say we're moving forward. It's not going to happen. We're in for a long-ass haul. So how do you get in touch with the show? A bunch of malarkey pod show at gmail.com. You can tweet at us, or I don't know what the hell you even call it. All these years of Twitter. At Malarkey Pod Show on Twitter. A Bunch of Malarkey Podcast on Instagram. Of course, A Bunch of Malarkey on Facebook. We're available on all major podcast platforms. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio Public, Radio.com, Stitcher, CastBox, YouTube, Deezer, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Overcast, or on your Amazon Echo device. Patreon, if you want to become a sponsor of the show, patreon.com/abunchofmalarkey. We have a few patrons, and I thank you all so much for your monthly contribution to the show. If you want to buy my book, A Whole Lot of Shenanigans, on Amazon, just type in A Whole Lot of Shenanigans and my name, Charlie McMahon, and that book is available 2-day free shipping with a Prime membership. Want to hear me on the radio, where I spend most of my time? Charlie's 80s Attic, that's on iHeartRadio and on TuneIn Radio. I'm on air from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, although it's been very hectic here. And maybe I'll get into it next week or the week after what's been going on here, but it's been a very tough couple of weeks. I don't know how I'm still standing. But I guess that little therapy of a podcast. And again, I apologize for dogs coughing in the background, echoing, hammering, and it is 5 o'clock or 5:30 in the morning. So there's no good time around here to get anything done in the last few weeks. So I apologize. So folks, if you're sitting home wondering how the hell you're going to get out of this cult, and you might go to WikiHow later to start the process, you still have to beware, because it's a shit show out there. Thank you so much for tuning into this bizarre episode. I feel like a fish out of water outside the King Spring studio. I hope you have a great week, and hopefully we will be back to normal next week. Take care, everybody.